Alrighty, pretty good. Well, that's nice enough. But what about the legs? I could extrude the legs out of the bottom like I had done with the table, but I think an easier thing to do would just be to make some cylinders and attach those as legs. Okay, I'm going to deselect my polygon, which brings me to the top level up here. Now that I'm on the top level, I can raise up this whole chair seat. I'm going to raise it on the z-axis about 2 feet, putting it 2 feet up in the air. I'm going to go over to the Create tab, and I'm on Geometry, so I can see my familiar boxes and cylinders and spheres and stuff. And I'm going to choose Cylinder, dragging out a cylinder and pulling it up. Right-click, so I don't keep making cylinders, and go over here to my Modify tab. You can see that the radius is 2 inches and some change. It's whatever you made it. I'm going to change that to 1. Oops, not 1 foot. I want it to just be 1 inch. So go 1, Shift, hold down my quotation marks, and then I'll get 1 inch. The height, well, I raised up the chair 2 feet, so I think I'll just make the height 2 feet. The number of segments, 5, we really only need 1. And the side segments, instead of 18, well, let's take a look at that. The side segments on cylinder just show how round it's going to be. 18 is pretty round. That could be fine. I think, though, I'll raise it up to something more like 32. That'll make it really nice and round. Okay. I don't need to make this editable for what I'm about to do, but it could be editable and it would do the same thing. What I want to do next is I want to shift copy and make copies of the cylinder. So I'll go to T for top. And I can see through this object because this is selected. I'll move my leg over to maybe where I want it, right about there. Then I'm going to hold down my Shift key and drag this over. I've created a copy. I'm not going to rename it this time. I could rename it something like leg, but I don't need to because I'm going to be attaching it to the rest of the chair here in just a few minutes. Say OK. Alrighty, that looks to be about right. Now I'm going to select both of these. Here, let's go over here and change this from the spray can back to the square. And pull it over, holding down my Shift key. I'm going to get a couple more legs and just say OK. Now I can look at it from the left. Not too bad. From the back. I think this could go, oops. Select these two right here. Pull them back a bit. And these two up front. Pull them forward a little bit. Let's see, how's that looking? Well, it was looking good, but look at that, the legs came out. So that's not going to work. Let's pull that back here. That looks good. These ones back here. Guess that's all right. That'll work. And say that's okay. Okay. So I'll go P for perspective. The home button. That way I can find myself again. Not too bad. Not too bad, that chair. Well, but it's all a bunch of different objects. Let's make it one. Clicking on the chair seat, I'm at the top level. I'm going to go down here to where it says Attach. Clicking Attach, I'm simply going to touch these other objects, and they all become part of the chair. Now it's very important that you unclick the attach by either clicking some other object or tool, or just clicking the attach once again, and that will deselect it. Well, that's a pretty nice chair. Let's see how it looks with everything else. I'm just going to go over here and click on my various eyeballs. Let's go. Oh, that's better. So we've got our table, we've got our chair, all good. So I'm just going to shift copy my chair. I'm going to call it O2, or I'm just going to call it chair 2. That's a copy. And say OK. Now I've got 2 chairs. Of course, if I like, I could make many, many more by clicking both chairs. Here's one chair. Control click the other. This time when I shift copy, oops, this time when I shift copy, I'll get multiple chairs. Shift copy, so forth, and so on. Actually, I don't think that will want that many chairs, but I just wanted to make the point that that's how you could make multiple things. All right, good enough. Well, here we go. We've got our interior space. Go on up here to your render production, and you'll see we've got a picture, and it's in frame. We're in our camera view. Notice that there's nothing around the outside of the picture. In other words, there's none of this stuff. Okay, back to it. So anyways, the picture that we rendered now is kind of small because it's in 480. Let's change that. Here's a handy way to get to the render setup. In our render setup, we're going to change the resolution from 480 270 to 1280 720. Once again, that's sort of like HD for YouTube and good enough for what we're doing. So change the resolution. At this point, you could just click render, and you'll see we get a much larger picture. I want you to go ahead and save this one. So go to Save Image, and in the T drive, in the Art folder, go to your period, go to Project 2A, and there you can save it with your last name, your first name, the period number, and we'll call this Project 2A. The format that you want to save it in is JPEG. And save. OK. And if we were to look in our folders, we would see that now we have a project. By the way, when you're in your folders, if you cannot see a picture, just go to the large icon over here, and you'll see it show up. I'll show you that once again later when we're looking at images.